I look at him and see the pain in his face. I see the fear in his eyes. I know him inside out. 42 years we've been married. And I would take this disease from him and put it in me if I could, but I can't, so I have to watch. And it crucifies me every minute of every day. But we have to go on, because we need to make the most of every single second.
She tries to remain quite strong, but she thinks about it all the time, as well as I do. We try not to now get into too much long conversation about it, because we both just get upset about it.
Wrong place, wrong time, where there's some asbestos fibres and you happen to get it into your system, and it's a killer. And there's nothing anyone can do about it. Keith's never smoked, he's never drunk a lot. It's a foreign body that gets into your body and it will kill you.
The company I was working for had been awarded the contract to the Mechanical and Electrical Services refurbishment at Terminal 3 Heathrow. We were aware that there had been asbestos in the ceiling void, and we were advised or told that it had all been removed and they had a clearance certificate for access into the void. It was a big area, so you could be up there for hours. One day while we were up there, we were walking around looking at various things. There was a light missing in the ceiling, so there was a big hole in the ceiling where a light fitting should have been. It was about 2 foot wide, 600 mil wide. And we could see around the outside of the lighted, the light fitting, there was like lots of fibres around there on the floor, like greyish colour fibres. And straight away I had a feeling what it was. We removed everybody from the roof void, and I reported it to the main contractor, who then dealt with it after that. And I saw the asbestos removal contractors, guys up there throwing the bags off the roof. They had red bags with a skull and crossbones on, and I knew that was not correct. So again, I went back and reported it to the main contractor, who then stopped it happening. I was working at the Royal London Hospital as project director. Woke up on the Monday morning to find I had a pain down the left-hand side. My first thoughts were that I'd pulled a muscle and carried on going to work. No problem. Over the week, actually, the pain started to disappear, but I started to get breathless. By the time I got to the Friday, I thought, no, something's not right, because the pain had completely gone, but the breathlessness was getting worse. I decided to go into A&E and just get them to check me out.
The pain had gone, he said, and he was actually going to leave, and then they called his name out, thank God. And the first I knew of it, he phoned me and said, they're keeping me in hospital.
There was 2 litres of fluid on my lung, and that the reason that the pain had gone was because the fluid had gone in and pulled the lung away from the side. So that is what stopped the pain, but there was 2 litres of fluid in there, and that they were going to admit me over the weekend. We then got an appointment to go back and see one of the doctors, and we turned up there, and at that point I was told that it was cancer and it was mesothelioma. Never crossed my mind that I'd actually got it.
Asbestos fibres are very carcinogenic, so once they get inhaled, the body finds it very difficult to clear the fibres from the lung and also from the pleura, where their fibres track down to the outer parts of the lung. And over time, frequently over many years and decades, this results in genetic damage to the pleural cells, what we call the mesothelial cells, and this results in mutations and the development of mesothelioma.
the hospital rang up and said, actually, one of our consultants, thoracic surgeons, thinks he can operate on Keith. Would you be interested in seeing him?
He did say, to be fair to him, that the chances of getting all of it were pretty remote, but they would do their best.
It was very major surgery and with, quite a lot of risks. Told us all the risks, one of which was death. And we came away and went to see the oncologist.
And to be honest, that was like, almost seeing the Grim Reaper. It was, the best we can offer you is some chemotherapy. The prognosis is not good. I think they were talking about 9 months to 12 months, and that I should maybe consider the operation, which I did. Excuse me. I think the operation has given me an extended period with the chemotherapy. It's given me, that period of time. And everybody's trying to be strong for each other, but very difficult, very difficult.
It's the hardest thing in the world to watch, the man that you love with all of your heart, but also a very strong man, a man at the peak of his career, physically and emotionally just deteriorate.
If I wasn't going to be here, I needed to make sure that my family were taken care of. Excuse me. And at the end of the day, I had caught this disease, and I shouldn't have done. It shouldn't have been there. It should have been removed, and therefore, the people that hadn't done what they should have done really should pay for it.
I wanted someone to be culpable for putting this into my fit, strong husband who probably wouldn't have been ill and live forever in my mind.
When we looked at the Leigh Day and Harminder in particular, we decided that she looked to be the right sort of person to take the case on for us.
She did lose her dad to it, which I read on the thing, and I thought, well, that for me means a lot, because then that lady is going to know what I'm going through. That clinched it for me when I read that. And she's passionate about it. She's passionate about her work. She's like a little pit bull in the nicest possible way, because she just is so driven. She would phone us up or phone Keith, 9 o'clock at night, 9:30. Oh, Keith, I'm just looking at this, I'm just looking at that. And I said to Keith, God, does she ever stop working? She is amazing. As far as I'm concerned, she's utterly amazing. And we couldn't have chosen or had better person working for us at all.
My lawyer pursued the defendants through the courts, obviously, and asked for disclosure of information. And initially, they all said they didn't have anything. They didn't even remember the project, is what they said. The lawyer pursued it further and asked for one of the defendants' own solicitors to sign to say they had nothing. And at that point there, we received a load of documentation. There was a prohibition notice that was issued on the contractor and the employer around the same sort of period. And the prohibition notice instructed them to remove the remaining asbestos from the roof void.
It totally backed up what Keith had said. And that to me was just brilliant.
I went for a scan in January when I was told that actually it had started the disease was on the move, and it was actually now growing in 2 locations. We
were a little bit shocked and disappointed that it had started to grow, because Keith had 9 months without any growth of the tumour after the surgery and after the chemo, and I suppose we sort of got in false sense of security in that it would be absolutely fine.
This shows that the mesothelioma is now growing in a new area and showing why this disease is intractable and eventually leads to the demise of the patient, because this disease can frequently find ways of overcoming our treatments.
At that point there, I had a discussion with my consultant about options. Again, one of those options was another round of chemotherapy, and another one he was talking about was this new drug, this immunotherapy drug, and it was only yesterday that I found out that definitely I was on the trial and I've got a date to start it. So we're hoping for the best, even if it buys more time, because it won't cure it, is my understanding, but it could potentially hold it back or even reduce it from where it is. And it would give me then more time.
Asbestos, the risk to everybody, because it was in buildings like schools, hospitals, airports, everywhere. As they say, it's just like a silent killer because you don't know that it's there. The fact that you can have such a small exposure, literally, and it's just a couple of grains have only got to get into your system, and then potentially you could then be like Keith, 20, 30 years down the line.